Hello, Barbaderos. Barbaderos, forgotten campuses. They call us to the breeze. In other words, the ancient republic is abridged. I am not a lawyer, I'm not a police force, I'm not a criminal. All sides in the Ninth Circuit Court next to the World Trade Center towers right before the attack. Shortly, different ways, different extents of time, shortly though. And then long term, the same names involved with our side had been involved collusions with predicate acts with a whole bunch of different countries before that, including they forced with their extended family members Saudis to rolls with them. And they've been doing behavior racketeering with people that live around me tied to the same houses involved with wire crimes with Weathersfield Police, Hartford Police, and other police departments in forms through time. There are people with the name Zeno and Cololo further involved. There's a Phil Cololo further involved with the Bob Chase, with Whiting Forensics, further with WFSB and names next to their location, involved criminally foreign influence with a whole bunch of different countries and intercultural and intracultural predicate acts with fax methods roles that are also black KKK themed and Confederate flag themed. They've been planting evidences with military police forms and their roles with different natures of medicines crimes and drugs crimes with kids, attaching little kids to fake uses of drugs, and and attaching kids to fake uses of drugs, and doing the same thing with adults and of alcohol, and in the difference, worse uses of the difference, and of screening foreign bodies involvements with phones, and now of a different nature with text, etc. They're doing things to leave out screening the foreign names, whole bunch of names. There are people from a whole bunch of different countries and cultures, like Asian cultures, Middle Eastern cultures, Russians, involved with a police chief Cintron in 1 years before, 1 or more years before. I'm not sure their names exactly, but it also into a whole bunch of different police departments with the same ones, Hartford police forms. There's a Brian Foley. I'll sign, I won't sign them because we have to make a list of swears that are polite because they're made up just for that too. Because this breaching method is, again, it uses names because it uses identity. It is also hyper evidential where and how that is evidence itself, where and how that has been left out from the classes we had that blamed other things, others, ourselves for what assigned black pupils and whites of eyes to communicate other than they communicate. And so they have been prevented their hypernative communications. And so nature just shows us this. So manifest become the value of native populations, not just in America, every indigenous population. Because the syntax of the human species value body of individual bodies is prevented its system to answer our questions with positive or negative. A quality of Fox treatment nature as hypercriminal insidiousness is forced. I am not a police form. I am not a judge, but we can discern this because nature is everything at once. And even though we can only discern an extent of that, its complete identity and its complete identity, extent of its complete identity. Its complete identity, even the littlest piece of it, comes with its complete identity's relationship to itself. A little piece of itself comes with its complete identity, its complete relationship to itself that will only stay positive unto itself. It is already relativity to positive and negative simultaneously. This is where more and more of the perfect world / hyper perfect world makes more of itself, whether we are in pain or not. Boxing is hot or cold. The sciences share this identity. See, boxing, martial arts, and wrestling, they share this identity. Grouped. We grouped the exceptions with our eyes while we have the same color eyes and different color eyes at the same time. Nature is using difference to communicate with us. See, but the difference, I missed out the difference between discerning how the breaching method assigned crazy, crazy laws against everyone and how that was functional. Now move on. Now go play the game. Play as value nature systems that are enslaved. And if you try to speak up against that with the acting that's coming, the virtual. I have an idea. We could do a video about people making a virtual internet company, like a virtual um movie production company. But our goal, is multiple things. Also to make a hyper native tribe that is 1/3, for the rest of us to argue, if we have to argue, about what is hyper native pure. And because of the approach to each fact should be nature legally by Native Americans, they have been prevented the quality of fact should be nature, necessary for one to defend themselves, let alone to defend the Constitution unabridged. The Constitution unabridged is about hyper additional nature. It is about that which is hyper native pure. See, president/chief. It is a scientific value, thank God, positive. What is negative, that our founders had to counter extort the other founders. They had to fight with themselves. The ones that were not our founders as Native Americans, but they are our founders too. The three, everyone learn and understand the three identities of our founders. The Native Americans who were fighting with the fact cheating nature torture / extortion / slander method. And I refer to it that way for the same reason. Hyper-evidentially, hyper-relativity shows us why and how. The 7 names for the verb, they're about the 1/3/5 ways the one identity of hyper-simultaneous is manifest. Its identity, to the extent we could discern, comes simultaneously equally as value to a trinity, inseparable from all parts of everything individually grouped in together. But what it is showing us to describe and understand why and how we hunger, thirst, not to be through systems. Oh, go get me some more plastic water in a bottle. Go put some new chemicals. It will make more money for the economy. Our founders communicated, demonstrated. They had to demonstrate things to us because they couldn't communicate to us in that way, but they did leave us demonstrations as the breaching method itself did, that everyone had to entertain criminal insidiousness natures of positive treatments with fact should be nature and or with facts as collusions with criminal insidiousness natures of negative things we know, and with the difference of that and what is used worse too. But to understand that and to observe that, we have to appreciate difference. But we have only been allowed to appreciate the way the breaching method only allowed it to be assigned, or it would sense that body, even if that body is a majority of people. We came through different teachings of American history, sickly, distinctly, abridged, tactically, for motivations apparent, many. But there is also, has to do with what propagated that self-cultivated to screen itself. The human fact cheap nature breaching method that came from some ancient times and remote uses of self-valued roles with it. People who want to have debates about the nature or value of the names of sciences, like the guy who Boolean logic is named after. We don't even have to know them. You guys left out important phrases to understand American history or any history properly. like criminally foreign influenced. Simultaneously, one has to understand how it is of a nature and method that knew that people would have to syntactically counter things like criminal foreign influences, overcome things associated with criminal foreign influences syntactically per nature. Nature's demonstrated. Nature revealed to campus the English language. A stands for alpha. See the name alpha as one of the root words in the word alphabet. See the word bet relative to where and to how. Prayer before modern religions made defense and damage control to already having been sustained criminally foreign influence sciences. Now the human fact cheap nature was already possessed / hyper-possessed as a quality of hyper criminal insidiousness / criminal insidiousness. It has not been formally defined, hyper criminal insidiousness, but it is hyper evidential and observable, and is observable relative to means we have hyper additionally with beyond just having black pupils, whites of eyes an exception. So prayer is about a certain type of contemplation which nature assigned to value as a special difference, and where and how we don't evaluate a special difference, where and how its identity is all parts of space / existence positive to it, to an extent where more and more of the hyper-perfect world is making itself through the perfect world. And see, but where are one species of the many species of the planet Earth, we could be systems other. We could ignore its identity of relationship to itself and the value of that. How bound? Okay, the round vaccines. It is what came and was before. Even if everyone agree or believe other simultaneously and value that, everyone agreeing and happy about that, nature will continue to demonstrate with negative value nature progressions, acts in nature. Not only that we are now, but we have been sustained systems other than its own. One can't defend an environment or understand an environment until one understands why nature is a word hyper additional from the word identity alone. For the same reason, for the identity of a verb needs 7 words for itself. For the same reason, every subject individually grouped or together, they come with / more subjects coming into space / existence. So you guys have theory and speculation misplaced, and the nature of debate regarding it, where that is affront to the standing or the let alone the protraction of short words, using truths that come with revelations, and when used by nature, not being used by others too. As systems tactical ulterior from its own, but has only been voiced. I mean, rather than the answers, surging from all things alone, and even through what is force. Well, not, but anyway, it is whatever course it takes. It is one too, that one, but one other, greater and more finite, while active too. Relativity the same way, but more and more forever nature is being made. This is the science of its identity in relationship to itself, and the value of that as any subject individually grouped together. So 3 ways. All subjects, even the simultaneous, comes with /s. Programming is this same way. because the identities of volume referred to with the physics of a computer, a whole bunch of locations to be used. This works because the programming values the relativity of sequence, the relativity of simultaneous nature too. Sequence nature, simultaneous nature. I refer to it as nature because nature is a word for identity. It is the identity of the hyper simultaneous. That is an identity of hyper invisible distinctly from being. As the subject and the verb are invisible but still discernible. The parts of speech are invisible but still discernible. The hyper invisible but still discernible is where and how and why is why there are 7 names for the verb. And they're about, though, however, how there are 1/3/5 distinct identities of sequence/simultaneous nature that are connected. And then further observation of that reveals that it comes with demonstrations and appreciation of how there are that is also how it is showing functional. It is the way it is hyper invisible, but still discernible distinctly from how it is invisible, but still discernible. So anything we discuss or describe or name, it is in this system /S because of where and because of how it makes more of itself. So it begins and never stops being about the extent of its volume as a subject /S, individually grouped together simultaneously. It's and its identity of relationship to that, and the only increasing value of that being simultaneously to each part of it, that thing, even if it's something made up, has a distinct identity of relativity to its smallest finite detail, to its grouped details, and to its simultaneous details, while simultaneously being more and more finite and being active relativity to this. For example, as the order of the finite, to from the finite, smallest details, and distinctly how it is as the order of the active, which is a grouped difference /S. So not just with eyes do we have the same color eyes, different color eyes at the same time. Not just with eyes is nature communicating with us about difference. Even the bugs, they have quality aspects in nature. Other species' bodies. There's a shared consciousness because there is one identity of that. In other words, the other species' bodies didn't invent why humanity has 2 eyes, and we didn't invent how they have 2 eyes, etc. Etc. Or what? Vaccines to teach us things. It moves our hearts to show us soul /S. I tell it best, vaccines. So where the sciences appear and how and why they appear not to share an identity is what it looks like because of how it is manifest and demonstration of how it uses exception nature the way we know. People always making fake exceptions though, because that's the outcome the breaching method would be. For example, it uses exception nature the ways we know. Finite, active, and grouped. And progressive. But per definition of progressive, that is appreciating also simultaneously how it is 1/3/5 distinct identities of time. Also, while it is demonstrating how it is functional being, distinctly hyper invisible but still discernible. This is how reason works. So reason is actually what we are capable of. It is capable of discerning how that which was actually itself as the identity of space/existence to all parts, its identity of relationship to itself, and the only increasing value of that as a system. Again, it is a system ignored, and we could ignore it. But as a special difference, like for example, where it is positive to all parts of space/existence, where it is already positive and negative simultaneously, but making more of itself positive only. Or it forces that from here, least of Hadith. See, the rest of Earth has no criminal foreign influences. Again, with this flip phrase, necessary not just to describe history, but nature itself. The sciences share an identity. The identity of English is greater than, is more finite than, and is active grouped relationship to all things more than math/s, the maths. They're on demonstration of the same thing. But the syntax and the nature of the debate at each age of fact should be nature. It is coupled with faked and changed transcripts into databases as collusion/s with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and with identity theft, fraud, slander. Fact should be nature, tortured, extorted, and enslaved. Including how, for example, with remote uses of people who would pretend other and quote their wealth. There are criminal foreign influences that rely on that because this breaching method propagated before our founders were born. Roles with value nature systems, economies, trade, and taxes that were criminally foreign influenced. They weren't really trying to help the people with the taxes. And they have collusions with the worst patients and criminals with the people at the prisons too. Differentially criminally, increasingly better than perfectly. Used remotely, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions wrought. And the difference between them with that, or the interbranch, or the overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and insidiousness of A through Z, that is maintained through uses of names with all sides of criminal and civil cases, and with the lead up to that, and since, and with the news at the same time in names of the courts, putting fake things together, victims advocates, and where it's the worst, nobody even realizes, even the directors of the agencies, but there are exceptions. And as exception nature, they can't have afforded discern how they actually are, what they're actually worth, relative to where and to how they may judge their roles with the judgments made against people of all ages, and where and how they had collusions with things way worse before they put kids in jails. There are people involved with kids' jails in Middletown through time, and with public and private schools, where they have the police forms with the digital, and with uses of evidences and recording things with cameras. They have roles with predicate acts with fax methods that film things to measure and maintain collusions, pretending, with that federal evidence is crimes, federal rules of evidence is crimes, and methods of them, where and how that is manifest because of the identity theft, fraud, slander method, which has a whole bunch of different methods it showed them to use. So people from other locations like Central Connecticut State University and like UConn and Trinity College, there were roles with predicate acts there from off the campuses. And they force, trick, hurt, and persuade. Collusions there. And these are all on off child campuses with child offenders before they were caught, and more then and now. And so that's only two because being forced to spread. They have the high. They already use remotely. Forgiveness is so we don't leave out the foreign bodies because it's not just the interbranch in all sides of the cases. These are including criminal enterprises. The witness protection program is involved here. This is the first time of 3 times we got this came in the mail. They pretended to the mail Leahy family as of doctors and nurses and people associated with military EMS and Hartford Hospital's triage there with the intelligence side. They have roles with their patients and criminals, overt criminal enterprises, and a whole bunch of names who have been involved with predicate acts on my street from other areas, involved with identity theft, frauds, and slanders. Also with co-defendants of former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and the foreign and domestic military families involved. Also as recorded because where they don't say anything and took too much time. They have wire crime acts and roles and methods with the courts and police forms of the Wethersfield Police. For example, with Wethersfield Pizza. A whole bunch of people with Wethersfield Pizza are involved with child offenders and the intelligence community next to Trinity College with a Mark Violet and a Maria Fazzino and a Maria Stocco, too. I think she uses that name, too. And there's a Steven Stocco who has wire crimes and federal evidences, crimes, identity thefts, and frauds, and evidence is planting with Wethersfield Police, including wire crimes. Now, these are people with other police departments and at Central Connecticut State University involved through time planting evidences with the intelligence community intercities as timed collusions with overt criminal enterprises and private ones with grammar school kids and middle school kids who are timed collusions attaching others to fake locations, fake ties to other people, fake natures of ties to other people, fake descriptions of knowing us by using corners for tricks for that. All exceptions, exception nature, are in demonstration of the same thing. So, and it has something to do with, in other words, they have readings of statutes that are already used remotely criminally foreign influence, and they show them how that could be discerned by others coming up and by how they had to use everything that comes before them. This is relative to where and to how they could get away with pretending not to realize the hyper evidential. The second we have black pupils in here, black used or white, and people pretending passions and emotions when they speak about it. In other words, and then when people pretend we're kind because we're emotionally hurt, that's one of the things that the celebrities do, distinctly from the news locations. So get Judge Napolitano to agree. And I'll sign that I won't sue Fox News. And I'll show you how to observe, recorded. Former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin. Whole bunch of people tied to a Tim O'Brien and men and women involved with child offenders from the buildings next to the state capitol and people on off the state capitol involved with agencies and child offenders, elderly homes at the same time. These are people on off the veterans locations. These are people off the homes of and next to probation officers associated with elderly homes, associated with hospitals. These are personally and professionally involved, fabricating transcripts and fake ties to people while their tactically delusions rot and rolls with a whole bunch of natures of organized crime, not just the apparent motivations, like their roles with drugs and medicines crimes, while tactically delusions raw too. That's why how they got away with it, pretending to be able to speak for a reason. A whole bunch of people at Hartford Hospital, tons and tons of names tied to them, have roles with predicate acts with facts, and switching what people say with judges and prosecutors. Oh, as the one names involved with a whole bunch of people with their courts switching names, even worse. At the same time, putting fake things in their use as collusion with crime scenes, names all sides of criminal and civil cases as ones on and off the news locations. WFSB is involved also. They've been planting evidences with a whole bunch of people tied to the state judicial branch offices. They better get out of medical too. The people associated with the Zanos along Route 3 and the ones tied to the curve. So I don't even remember their name. But all along Route 3 has something to do with people that have been planting, on off Trinity College and intercultural, involved with KKK, on off Trinity College too, military, black and white. Planting evidence is also international with other countries, the people involved. Canada, Pakistan, India, net culture switching too, changing and name switching. The same people that do that interbranch do it at locations. Investigators in their campuses, all natures of locations associated with them, have been collusions with predicate acts connected between, each year connected, predicate acts, methods, roles. So, what do you think black people's whites of eyes assigned to mean other is about? It's about predicate acts with facts, natures, or roles. With facts or fact nature, treatment natures. Oh, that's crazy. It's not crazy. Our founders left us to show that who would say that's crazy is criminally foreign influence and/or tactically delusions raw. Another way they got away with it is by pretending that people are planning for their emotional reasons. So you guys have tactical delusions too, with a whole bunch of doctors involved with the celebrities. Want to pretend passions and emotions. You're preventing people from speaking about predicate acts and predicate acts methods, and you're speaking anyway. You're getting involved with other people's conversations. You guys are getting involved with topics like bully, then you go speak like a punk, A through Z. Otherwise, they sense that body and hurt them, even if they're a majority. Sick men and women speaking about adult, and they can't even speak properly about what assigned black and white. You're going to speak for adult. You're going to hide behind your kid. And all formalized voices for the law. Straight collusion with the overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and insidiousness of logic A through Z, too, simultaneously. Tactically, delusions raw. Got a name and paper with them. So a whole bunch of doctors and their patients from Hartford Hospital have predicate acts on my street. And with Wethersfield Police, with people with the name Cololo, Dylan. Before my neighbors on both sides of me moved in, they were involved with predicate acts on both sides of my houses and all other sides of it, planting evidences. And through time with people that were in classes of me, they were planting as the ones I caught with the principal child offender, involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, with the names putting me to fake ties to their little cliques, and then pretending it's personal. They brought themselves up, and their roles with the Stop and Shops, with people with the name Smith, involved with foreign and domestic military on off the Wethersfield town offices, also with probation officers, involved with body dumping spots and shootings, and Afghan kids abused to abuse American kids, with the Afghan leaders abused to abuse American kids' roles and adults' roles. They have collusions with overt criminal enterprise. Oh, these are diplomats. They're immune from law. That's why you have to get them, the ones next to Trinity College, tied to Maria Vazino, and the Stephen Stockwell and Central Connecticut State University in New Britain, over there with predicate acts with them, and identity theft frauds with Wethersfield Police, wire crimes with them, attached me to fake ties to the Stephen Stockwell, fake conversations with them and with others, and sequence shifts with them. These are people with the school boards, criminally foreign influence. You guys they're lying to you about Sandy Hook and with their feelings about they have the victims advocates. They have campuses names with Sandy Hooks, further as the ones involved with Hartford and Wethersfield campuses. Rocky Hill campuses further has roles with people sharing the name McGee. And then they say they only have one McGee. All 3 different police reports. They have 3 or more people. There was also another incident with no police report. They have a guy that said his name was McGee. They're putting fake things, even in the Wethersfield Police Department itself as a kid. They pay. I never had a conversation when I was a kid. They influenced the Chris Walters and a Ray Colola. They also said it's people with a Charlie Bowes and others with Trinity College. I don't know the names of. And like there's a Eric Olson and Matt Olson. I do not know them. They recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed the people tied to them, and a Mr. Neville. There's a Mr. Neville, who was my eighth grade English teacher. And then I had a summer school class with him. And the people in my summer school class were involved with predicate acts in my street. As the ones that were put in the summer school class, I never saw them on the middle school. There was one exception with the Joe DeMoro one time, and he was with Eric Mendez. And now through time, increasingly, their roles with various natures of abuses of little boys and girls, identity thefts and frauds, and evidence is planting against them. I never even had a class with Eric Mendez. There was no way I could even counter. He's involved planting evidences against me as collusions with other natures of organized crime and their roles with unions and narratives about how they're using high schools to show people how to get jobs. And or how why not? There's problems with the resources. They're leaving out the foreign bodies because they have off-campus influences with all descriptions of names and instances and what came first and what's the value of locations and how people feel about things. The military's criminally foreign influence traders associated with this Emmett. There's a Michael Emmett, and there are others with the Weathersfield town offices still involved with this police chief Centron, involved with hiding behind Russians, with Koreans, and roles with people from Japan, his roles with people from Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, on off Elm Street in Rocky Hill. What are you doing in there? Get them on paper, name and sequence. Get them on paper now. I'll make people beg. And they put me to fake behavior. So now they're going to have to lie about my aggressive behavior here on YouTube, and they have to lie about the other behavior. I'm going to show you how to discern the simultaneous conjunction to it that this hyper simultaneous has. Vaccines. The revolution has not been completed. That's why they have wars. That's why they have the needs for them. That's why the suburbs were designed before cars were invented, before our founders were born. The suburbs were designed tactically to nature to cause negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, and the only means to cause positive value nature progressions, acts, and natures more and more to collude with criminal insidiousness natures of positive as collusions with the negatives and with the breaching screen that have employed hyper additional motivation natures apparent things to screen itself uses of A through Z. And then our founders were born, and that was already roles with that was entrenched. Roles with use /S of that was entrenched too. And everyone missed that part. And the Trinity, how it is, it shows how holds that manifest to us to appreciate, to observe, to discern, to draw and see. Yin Yang is about the constant. What is already relativity to positive and negative simultaneously, but it is only positive to itself perfectly. And where and how it is making more of itself hyper perfectly, because that we're its complete self's complete identity of relationship to itself, and the only increasing value of that is inseparable from all things. Vaccines. So, observation of the 5 ways. It is 5 distinct identities of invisible but still hyper invisible but still discernible. But it is about how it is 3 ways. Distinct identities of invisible but still discernible. And how it is making more of itself. So it's 3 and then another 3, not 6. Where and how our appreciation of how it is manifest this way, for example, the extent of time we know was true always before. That already happened. The extent of time now that we know is active. Now, true always. And the extent of the future, we don't know about it yet, but we know to an extent. Per its system law. And per what it's communicating about that. Not through the jobs, It is also two other identities of time. The part we don't know about, it wants us to contemplate that too. Just knowing that is knowing it too, though. No, that just knowing that we don't know it is knowing it to an extent. It's one of the things that we know constantly about it. And that changes, we will learn more. And even if everyone believes and agrees that the past was other than it was, nature will show demonstrations of that. And once they are gone, that is it. But it is more probable and is more probable and is more practical that least of hadiths would have been defined by the ancients as forced space nature transfer. Again, nature being used for identity's name. And instead of using the word identity, the scientific word / value, identity, I'm using the word nature because this is how we could discern. Identity has relativity. Nature has relativity to positive and negative simultaneously. Again, it has relativity to what is further a quality of diffusion. Temporary positive or negative further. But relative to where and to how it is only making more positive, hyper positive. All exceptions in exception nature. For example, heaven and hell are more probably having come from ancient pantheism. So, but you guys will not allow appreciation for this. Because you won't allow appreciation for what it says with science, whether people agree or not, at the beginning of religious books. The beginning of the Quran and the beginning of the Old Testament both have parts where they say this is the only thing that matters right here. And no one even knows about those parts because the people who have the most, quote, knowledge of good and evil, unquote, of each of the sciences, including each of the religions, they have been using that to get over on short words as collusions while being and having been used remotely. And or that body has been sensed, even if it is a majority, black pupils. Yeah. So in other words, the identity is a law. They kept other things others themselves. Let them speak about economies. They're out of their mind. Don't let them keep going forward. Where they have polling, Quinnipiac University has roles with people with the World Trade Center attack through other natures of organized crime, identity thefts and frauds they have roles with, and names in all sides of criminal and civil cases, and the courts themselves, their family members. Brian Silver, people tied to a Brian Silver, and judges and prosecutors with the Britain Superior Court have been planting evidences of identity thefts and frauds and having people act and spread lies and slanders on Quinnipiac University through time. Has something to do with the people relative all along Two Route Highway and Hangdog Lane who keep coming up, and people tied to the corners of the streets associated with the schools and predicate acts with child offenders. In the news role planting evidences with them. Whole bunch of people tied to a Paul Kelly and a Mark Violet on off Trinity College involved with various natures of poisons too, and guns and incredible threats, not legit military people. These are also people with the name Kerr who are involved with Officer Jerry Miller on Facebook and one's on the Facebook page of Weathersfield Police involved with guns and knife threats and poison threats and pretending to film me growing pot on my porch with people further involved then and now with the principal sex offender and the Britain Superior Court's Facebook page involved with rape threats with former director of the FBI and judges who have been planting evidences also with Dean's kids involved with identity theft, fraud, slander. They lie about themselves and others since they were kids with people from Weathersfield. A whole bunch of people from Weathersfield Have roles with predicate acts with names on my street with Weathersfield Police and other police forms. As names times collusions with overt criminal enterprises, plural, private ones. A whole bunch of people with Hartford Hospital and the buildings next to them. Have roles with predicate acts at campuses I went to too. I identified fraud slanders behind my back and have classes with them. All exception nature too. They use that. They're attaching everyone to fake ties to each other, fake nature ties, fake motivations. So Ray Reynolds and Mike Pandoff and a Rick Cianfaglione have roles with some medical families, also one's named Harris, who are further involved with the kids of leaders of kids with various natures of organized crime, and roles with they're on television, they're on social media and in the networks making it sound like drugs are good. They have disgusting little drugs, and they just keep the only drugs that are good, like the qualities of pot, the good qualities of pot, to the little rat mob fakes that are criminally foreign influenced since they were kids, putting fake things in databases with adults that are using their titles, pretending they're Americans because they have titles or whatever. They took oaths before they took oaths. They had roles with predicate acts with facts. Don't forget, black pupils. This is about predicate acts with facts. Is one of the things that is constantly about, not racism. Where and how it is constantly about racism, the breaching method constantly assigned things like racism to be blamed for what it did. And whatever our founders told us to blame on it, the breaching method itself. If you want to debate that, I mean, if you don't want to agree to call it a hyper-archetypal criminal enterprise, you guys want to stay punks and keep criminal enterprises blamed on each other, tactically wrong. And that's self-valued by the people putting you away. And as your roles with the fake gangsters with it. Oh, but because they didn't listen, they didn't do their homework. Get down. It's a little rat trap. Straight up. The suburbs are, let alone New York City. The science never spoke there. Science speaks here. Here. You have to beg them to pick one name in sequence. They use the crime method of pretending they don't understand things. Force equality of fact should be nature. That's why we have the little punks who can't speak and they get away pretending they can speak. Then they pretend people are jealous of them. Makes it seem like we know them. I don't know the people next to the state capitol. Those are people making pictures pretending they know me. Check Casper. What's he doing with the people with bringing his name up in a statement? The people at Hartford Hospital involved with child sex offenders, medical offenders, the judges involved. These are people involved with juries. Let's start in order though. I was only there for 3 days. And I didn't even communicate with anyone. And this lady family put me in fake conversations with there. Then they lied the next 2 times because they had to hide that. And they locked me there for 30 days, 2 times. And the news, when they talk about people being put for mental evaluation, they make it look like they have mental problems. They're putting fake information and pretending they believe it. These are news people playing hear no evil, see no evil with their phones. And they're being directed to attach people to fake words, lie about the outcome of legal cases, as collusions with overt criminal enterprise, even with World Trade Center attack bodies. Ones that attacked as criminal and citizens' natures, regardless if they were terrorists with classification with all their criminal and citizens' natures / hyper criminal and citizens' natures. And our side has collusions. And you speak about your own emotions and passions, and you speak about others as fakes, and where there are sacred, serious subjects, black pupils. So don't play games and get the one name in sequence and stay on the predicate acts I mentioned and fix the fake news. WFSB. I need the foreign bodies names and the ones tied to the ones next to the state judicial branch offices with the Fanzas and the conversations with the Keens and their roles with the kids, and get off the World Trade Center with the people from Weathersfield who had conversations with my name pretending to know me, like the people associated with the Keens, and get them on paper. One name in sequence now. The fake Fox News. Do you want to be sued or do it this way? Because it's going to be Attorney General is going to be obligated to put you in jail. There are people in jail if you don't want to help. Get WFSB to fix the fake conversations with me. Get WTNH onto paper with their sources. They've been putting fake things on and off my campuses. They have people from my sixth grade class involved with child offenders on Park Street with the FBI and foreign and domestic bodies, including criminal insidiousness natures, and judges and prosecutors and their family members involved before the World Trade Center attack. Now they have an Officer Hunter involved and with the Hartford courts after it too, as the ones involved with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and people and his co-defendants in their depositions, and their family members and their neighbors involved planting evidences roles with the including with press professors I had involved with predicate acts with all sides in criminal and civil cases, lawyers planting evidences, something to do with with people associated with the along Park Street through time with this name Mike Pandolf to intercities through time. People planting evidences intercities relative Rocky Hill locations, Southington locations. These are people with Mike Roberts also with intelligence community at Rocky Hill locations involved with child offenders, including ones through other ones with name Chandler involved with identity thefts and frauds. And they say he has a sister there involved with there in a food bag, and people that live next to the food bag, which is where the Wethersfield police are now. Whole bunch of people at the spots next to the Wethersfield police. Ones with the name Schumack involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, planting evidences, federal evidences crimes, federal rules crimes, and child abuses with the Wethersfield Police Department since there were kids, other agencies, sheriffs, people all along routes 175, black themed, and the Hartford Hospital with them, and 3 spots at the end of the Brone Turnpike, criminally foreign influence, people I don't even know the names of at all, even. And these are people with Tim O'Brien and a Ray Calola with their names next to the Hartford, next to the state capitol too. Increasingly, as ones next to the news locations involved with predicate acts, wire crime acts, and methods with them, and with their roles with their professors and teachers since they were kids, with identity thefts, frauds behind people's backs, pretending people are complaining for their emotions. That's punk trick game. Get them one name in sequence. Fix the news predicate acts, if you want to call them that. That's what their value is. You have roles with wire crime methods with the Wethersfield police phones too, and then fabricating and changing conversations with and making them totally up with the phones and with the fake, evidences. People rolls with them, the switching names. They have people that use the name McGee, and then but after they had 2 other police reports from 2 other eyes that used McGee, they confessed that as a part of their ways of making threats with the gun people with the guns and poisons and switching names with the judges and people with the courts too. They have their Facebook page. Their rape threats from the Facebook page of New Britain Superior Court also involved with Officer Jerry Miller, who's one of the ones involved with foreign and domestic military, involved with attaching kids that they never even had classes with to fake locations, fake ties to them, fake natures of ties to them, and to overt criminal enterprises involved with them. And with the judges that speak fake evidences and the prosecutors and their family members putting them in the databases. Let's get them in order though. They're also, then they've 2 more times they put fake behavior to bring me for a mental evaluation, and they made rape threats to hide what was actually recorded. They hid that. They have roles with sexual crimes, people with Hartford Hospital. You disgusting pigs. Get on paper one name in sequence. This whole list too. Otherwise, I had to draw a map. You're pretending you don't understand people too. You fake conversations to do it. Fake conversations with me and others about religion too. They're out of their minds with religion. They have roles with foreign and domestic military that investigated the World Trade Center attack as collusions. They had collusions at the World Trade Center and with the names next to it, at the hotel next to it, next to that, next to on and off with the names on all sides of the Ninth Circuit Court with a case. They have post-dated documents and other natures of sequence shifting roles. These are the names on off the campuses planting evidence. Is a little trick. There's a there was a CCSU magnet school, and there are intelligence families next to there, and people that associated with them that know or not. They're also mixed with overt criminal enterprises and private ones who have been attaching me to have roles with the intelligence community has been putting fake transcripts and fake conversations with me about police equipment and fake conversations with them and ties to their family members. These are people also on Facebook with KKK themed, Confederate flag themed roles with the principal child abuser before he was caught, involved with upskirt pictures and other pictures. And then since then, and before that, the FBI has roles more with upskirt pictures and with uses of the right to lie where they don't have the right to lie, as collusions with the list of falsified police reports and arrests involved with the extortion, torture, slavery method. You guys are also tactically delusions raw when you use your doctor, the people who think for you, when you use their words like ego. You're out of your mind. Get on paper, one name in sequence now, or narcissism. And both, they put both too, so people can't speak about the simultaneous afterwards. These are people that plant evidence that all investigators never stop being used remotely criminally foreign influenced. There are also a bunch of there are shooting ranges associated with the people involved planting evidence how they do it with identity theft, fraud, slander roles with the intelligence community as the ones criminally foreign influence foreign body. Even the witness protection program is involved with names on off the campuses involved with predicate acts on my street. How it's recorded, we have to appreciate. Now fix the fake conversations with me that WFSB pretended, and with the doctors that pretended they pretended that too through the people that I had conversations with ties to doctors as a kid and then as an adult that never were. And then they made fake exceptions too with the people who too, like this Leahy family. I had no conversations with people, how many quotations in here. So these people from the Institute of Living at Hartford Hospital. And they have roles with people from Cuba and who have been planting evidences with the intelligence community on and off Central Connecticut State University with overt criminal enterprises too, and sexual circles on Valley Crest, and with the houses next to the parks involved with a former Mayor Gold, with the whiting forensics through time. Also involved with sexual offenders and medical offenders and people involved with body dumping spots. The body dumping spot of a serial killer is also with their roles, collusions with Sandy Hook campuses names like O'Brien, brought up with confessions there. Also, there are people associated with the intelligence community when there was an Omni workout place, and whatever it is now, like a children's place, and the place is next to it. And next to that, they're involved with people with the World Trade Center criminally foreign influence and Sandy Hook campuses in Newtown, Connecticut, who are involved intercities with other campuses, further with child offenders, all kinds of medical offenders. A whole bunch of people recorded confessed them. I don't know who she is. There's a Dr. Laura Saunders, who's further involved with predicate acts with people next to campuses involved with drugs and medicines crimes, with her and with WFSB, WTNH, and Fox Connecticut News. If they want not to be indicted, have them fix the fake conversations with me and have them follow mandated law for Connecticut, get them into branch onto paper and respond for why they haven't. And there are proofs that they pretend that I'm speaking with some of the people that have been commenting in my comments relative to their roles with the intelligence community, with names associated at corners of the streets, with the Wethersfield police who have their phones. Some Mendez police have on off Fox Connecticut News in Hartford, Connecticut, and the spots next to it rolls with a whole bunch of predicate acts with child offenders, identity thefts, and frauds. As people rolls on off the Wethersfield Police Department with predicate acts, as police forms criminally foreign tactical illusions raw since they were kids. They've also been using the faith roles with Facebook, with intercultural and intracultural identity theft, fraud, slanders in the form of federal evidences crimes. They have something to do with prosecutors and judges associated with planting evidences with names all along Route 3 through time, and their roles with names along Main Street in Hartford and Franklin Avenue and Wethersfield Avenue. There are proofs that they might have training of police forms at Wethersfield Avenue where they report a lot of crazy things through time. And I don't know the ones on Facebook where there was exceptions that tried to pretend other in the past with a Fred Gruzet. He has roles with police chief Cintron, and a modern pastry has a guy that named people with the name Maiano, and people tied to them involved with former Mayor Gold and people tied to them with medical and sexual and other natures of crimes with kids. And his roles are federal evidence as crime sequence shifts and identity thefts and frauds natures of them, and fake motivations planting, and fake timing of me knowing him planting, as roles with also medical offenders with increasingly tied to a Pandolf family. They've been putting fake things in databases with the intelligence community intercities. In databases, they have roles of predicate acts with facts, with names at Central Connecticut State University, also through time involved with predicate acts on my street, with this name Cololo, and the police switching names with them, and with this police chief Cintron and his lawyer too. And they have Russians involved. They have ones with the name Peruta and his lawyer, a lawyer or a lawyer friend of his or what it is. And they have something to do with the police chief Cintron in all these countries and their roles with the corner of Elm Street and Route 3. Also with ones named Oliveri and Violet, with the medical families all through since years before they had a bakery there. They had roles of Wethersfield police chiefs retired with child offenders tied to there. And they have more placements with the campuses. And this is where and how they keep everyone speaking through others and using it to lock in roles with predicate acts with facts. And then before people take oaths, and or after it too, because they apparently, if they have, it appears that they have little kids influence the plant, under the guises of being legitimate investigators. They've been roles with various natures of organized crime bodies before they got caught with other natures of collusions and timed roles with stacking facts, fake things, and fake motivations roles with adults and kids who are involved with this identity theft, fraud, slander method. And then they pretend people are speaking about bullying from the past. And they're looking into records that were, or et cetera. They're looking into records and they're thinking about things they heard. Even when there are exceptions with things they see, they can't put it on people because they're lying about that too. In other words, relative to where and how other things got blamed, then the predicate acts with facts method, where that is the answer. We'll call slavery, for example, a predicate acts with facts method. I'm not a lawyer, not a police form, not a prosecutor. They all failed. They're gonna explain any holiday. Sickly distinctly, they can't explain Christmas. They can't afford to have it discerned. Sickly distinctly, they can't afford to have Martin Luther King Day discerned. Same reason they can't afford to discern why and how the identity of law values the predicate act, while it is the identity of English that values the predicate. A predicate act is about identity too. It's about an identity as a criminal insidiousness nature. See, but this hyper criminal insidiousness nature also forced all to be roles with that, blaming other things, others yourselves, for negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures. Not only in demonstration that we're using systems other than natures, but in demonstration of the breaching method, a hyper-archetypal criminal enterprise, if you will. And the phenomenon of means to cause hyperpositives out of nowhere with syntax nature by preparing as countries A through Z to counter syntactically a hyper-archetypal criminal enterprise by countering it syntactically, for example, with the ACE Act, the Anti-Hyper-Archetypal Criminal Enterprise Act. Robert Luskin is a former standing chairperson on the Racketeering Influence to Corrupt Organization Act, RICO, relative to the discernment what they call the discernment of enterprises. They left out how this breaching method assigned all groupings and defenses of syntactical treatments of groupings as collusions with how the breaching method assigned tactical ulterior from nature, other to be communicated through other apparent motivations, and real ones increasingly but as apparent because it is using that remotely, not just at those locations. So this is really why and how people say weird things and put fake and then they say motivate. Oh, I was just saying for that. People have strange, insidious behavior, but you have to be led by the hyper invisible, but still discernible, because that's going to cause insidious reactions, isn't it? And it is also hyper evidential where and how you guys left out all the means to discern foreign bodies, not just other bodies involved with those wire crime methods and the narratives by them and natures by them. Where they have people listening on the phone, they have other people call. That's involved with sequence shifts and planting evidences that overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and the interbranch have at the same time with the news. WFSB has roles with campuses, intercities through time, with where and how the intelligence community works, and how they're raising the kids, and each age and adults at colleges and universities. UConn has roles with Hartford Hospital with their patients and criminals, and with students that plant evidences together in their with doctors, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions, raw, identity theft, fraud, slanders, all fake transcripts these people put since founding, pretending they could speak for reason. Reason, it is other than they could attend. Heal their minds, prepare. So in other words, these are people that have been pretending to judges with other judges, though. See, there might be judges, there's judges pretend they're not going to hide behind how they have all these other countries judging Napolitano. Get them onto paper with the people, all but increasingly on off the state of Connecticut judicial branch offices. They've been demonstrating their roles with Central Connecticut State University in New Britain and other campuses involved with identity thefts and frauds. People that never even saw each other on campuses involved with the narratives pretending other. Like, I never saw Maria Vazina on a campus in Wethersfield in my life. And Stephen Stock, and what's his name? Not Stephen Stock. I've seen him on campus before, but we had a conversation with him verbally. Joshua Julian and Maria Vazino, they have roles with the principal child defenders campus. I don't know if she went to that campus, I assume, because her house is not too far from there. And or whoever lives there now, that name, Fienza, Fazina, and there are other ones similar name. There's another similar name that have roles with the Central Connecticut State University and the school board with identity theft, fraud, slanders, planting evidences, also with the intelligence community and their family members on off Central Connecticut State University through time. Fear! Also intercultural little creeps. Watch. They have been roles with that too. These are some black KKK and Confederate flag themed rules with the prisons databases that the military, foreign and domestic hasn't had. The same ones involved with drugs and medicines crimes with them as the ones supposed to be against it. And then so if you tell them they're pretending they're legitimately undercover, etc. They've been planting predicates with fax rolls. They have their teachers, not just their professors involved in military involved with them. On Zion Street in Hartford has something to do with Mark Violet and a Joshua Stryker, a Joe Aiello, and others from other areas, like a Joe DeMauro too, involved with predicate acts on my street, with the people with the name Cololo were involved with the wire crimes of Wethersfield police, switching names, forging names, falsifying police reports, putting fake evidences into databases with judges, prosecutors, intelligence community roles, and with foreign nations and overt criminal enterprises with the same ones, with car dealerships. Also, Lenny Triglia, I never had anything to do with in my life. They tried to make a fake exception years ago. Criminally foreign influence. and his neighbors are involved with child offenders, including sexual and medical. In other words, it has something to do with the roles all along Route 3, too, with people with this. And then they pretend, in other words, these are people, there's a Ray Cololo on YouTube involved with the word mature. He called me immature, and he's like, dude. He types dude. I don't know, but he was talking about psychedelics. In other words, he's been planting evidences with people on off roles with people on off the Wethersfield Facebook page that are involved with KKK crimes and confessions. Also, has people with German military police involved with the name Kolvenskis and his neighbors and people associated with them that know my names. I don't know their name, but that has something to do with a whole bunch of their ties to the corners on all along Route 175 and the spots next to where George Washington had to counter extort but leave roles with slavery, North and South. And we were supposed to address the torture of him, the torturers, plural, of him and other founders like James Madison. We're supposed to address James Madison's plan in them, where they had to leave roles with slavery, but we're supposed to counter this, North and South. But North and South sickly distinctly stayed roles with it. And they kept they kept all truths to be used for lies. They never ended it. They only did that one phase, but they never even told properly why and how our founders had to counter extort the other founders. They had to do way worse than close a window. Here. Also, they can't speak about behavior, and they want us to entertain the behavior. Oh, but that's how we can make money. That's what us tell on the other country news. Tell them we're not going to do it because it's sick. You guys have Sandy Hook. The subject treatments are criminally foreign influence to measure and maintain. It's functional to measure and maintain things left out. You guys can't speak about those things and the shootings in Hartford. You have roles with too many of the shootings. The shooting of Greg Kyler, even if it was made up, there are relative predicate acts involved and named all the names on all sides of it involved. His probation officer, if the guy was making up, that's against the law to make it up. His probation officer is one of the ones with the intelligence community on Covington Street in New Britain. They have roles with intelligence community on Zion Street in Hartford, next to Trinity College. This Covington Street in New Britain is next to Central Connecticut State University. There's also a Gary Sasso who's involved with a Gail King and others with WFSB, involved with predicate acts with Black KKK themed, Confederate flag themed sexual and medical offenders of kids. And her extended family members with intelligence in New Britain were implied. I don't know if that was them because it was the timing of it. And these are people that run the prisons associated with her too, involved with medical corruption there too. All kinds of natures of organized crime. People from Sandy Hook have roles with people with the security in Wethersfield near banks. And they have roles with boxing gyms, planting evidences with their patients and their criminals and their doctors. And there's one that wanted to drug me. Thank God I got taken out of there just in time. And I want to show you the tactical delusions of that guy. He's also involved with people from other countries with this, from Pakistan and India, from Italy, from Korea, from Saudi Arabia, from all these countries involved with the names on off along Route 3 through time, involved predicate acts with facts with their teachers and telling on people and having other people telling me and them and others things fake. The difference of it, they're screening foreign bodies and roles with it. So these are people that you guys, they know other, I caught them doing other because I had it confirmed on Facebook too in different ways. The people on and off the state judicial branch offices have roles with different reports on the body dumping spots of Billy Grasso. Reported different spots to be that body dumping spot. And Enzo Fienza and his cousin, I forgot his cousin's name. They were involved with names on and off 2 Route Highway with that. And with their family's business was reportedly the place of the body dumping spot, some tile place. I referred to it as a light place by wrongly one time, but it's the same area of that. And there are people involved with there are proofs. There are people tied to a WFSB that tried to exploit that mistake when I made that mistake in speech because they already attached me to fake conversations. But so if they had a conversation with me at the lighting place, that's also hyper evidential because that location's involved anyway. UPS is also with intelligence with the names Oliveri and Stryker, and people involved with the names Bobby that are male and female associated with a stripper and that lives next to Central in New Britain, but she goes to the different stripping places associated with foreign and domestic military and people that run the prisons and the computers, people that work with MIT involved with data crimes with them and sequence shifts. She has roles with prosecutors and judges on Covington Street with people from Field with and Rocky Hill with predicate X with them are there. Also on Elm Street and Rocky Hill, as the roles with the names on my street like O'Brien, involved on all sides of Central Connecticut State University. They affected confessions to me when I was in second grade, about second or third grade, regarding Central Connecticut State University, where they make confessions, where they know people are going to remember other people's names and things and confessions. Where and how these are people also experts on memory to keep things, blame the other things other than themselves. Where and how there are causes to a negative value nature progression to acts and nature, but it is by worse causes that are juxtaposed to keep blamed on other things, others ourselves. Its roles with the causes of negative value nature progression to acts and nature at all location slash S2. And further, how the sciences and why the sciences are manifest at campuses of the republic for which we stand, abridged since semi-ancient times, where those abridgments developed before the phenomenon of modern religious leaders to counter that vaccines. I teach us things belong until mandated school law is forced. So I reported to you the three branches of government with the child defenders, leaders of the kids now simultaneously. So they can't be trusted. You can't go. There's on off the state judicial branch offices, the FBI and the Weathersfield Police and with other police departments. They have wire crime acts and methods where they just fake that. So they've been hiding behind the worth of their titles too long. Boxing is strong. I'm not telling you to blame them. I'm telling you to focus on the acts I noted. Get them on paper with the courts and fast. I want a response for their time too. They have wire crime acts and methods. A whole bunch of people next to the schools too. Further involved with them with medical corruption, with the confessions and Social Security and other medical systems and programs are with names next to Fox Connecticut News at the building next to it, and with the names along Main Street in Hartford and along Route 3 through time, involved planting evidences and fake motivations, and people involved with medical corruption and black/white themed, you know, roles of predicate with child abuses as the names timed roles with elderly homes. The ones that were planting evidences on my street, they have roles with the three spots at the end of the Berlin Turnpike and with elderly home near there, which is also not far from the state corrections offices. So my people from my sixth grade class said that there's people said that there's a Lance Cuddy and family members and brothers of a Lance Cuddy. I don't know them. I don't know any of them. Then when I was in sixth grade, they affected confessions. People with the name Daryl Sullivan, with a Park Street location, involved with courts and prosecutors and judges. Also with a big blue house across from a house at the corner of Park Street and New Park Avenue, involved with the Hartford courts with a police officer named Hunter, who's one of the ones with Eric Burgess with military police, and ones from other countries, ones associated with Germany named Kolvinskis, all along Route 175, federal evidence of crime, identity theft, fraud, slanders. He has something to do with girls that went to a wife of his that went to my grammar school, involved with mayors that have been identity theft, fraud, slanders with them, fake ties, fake nature ties to people, putting fake things in databases, has something to do with mayors through time do that because they have the roles also with unions, time, collusions because they have uses of readings of statutes, criminally foreign influence, and where they have exceptions, where they have rights to lie about other people in elections, they have used the right to lie to spread those lies focused at corners of buildings to then fake conversations by making loaded statements and people not knowing others' names and they know theirs. That's some of the crime methods that the intelligence community does, where and how they are recorded being and having been used remotely as syntax nature since founding. That's one of the reasons too why and how other things were blamed and are blamed for the how that's even motivated for the breaching method that caused black and white to sign to blame other. It also put roles with that sustained in some ancient times before modern religions. So by the time we figured this out, because they knew nature was going to continually demonstrate this to us increasingly, they knew by the time we figured it out, everyone would have already been invested blaming other things, others, ourselves, while pretending to be able to speak for integrity, for things like the real causes of where and how and why, and the value of that, of what other has been assigned to be communicated for black and white. That nature itself communicates with it. So we have to correct the campuses that are tactical delusions wrought and criminally foreign influence and exploited that way consciously. All kinds of mental health corruption has staged collusions with their families with overt criminal enterprises and private ones. There are multiple ones on off Central Connecticut State University, and the same is involved with the World Trade Center attack and Franklin Avenue, who have roles playing evidences on Central Connecticut State University and other campuses. Now, these are people with names Scalora and Demaro and Color who say they're related to each other. The Demaro and the Color said they're related to them. Wethersfield police confessed to people with the name Scalora involved with them with identity theft, fraud, slanders against me, putting little fake ties in nature, ties to me, planting evidences intercities with them, and with child sex offenders involved with them. On Twitter, too. Further, with upskirt pictures, with the principal upskirt nature I caught them with first. They forced that, too, by putting fake police reports against me and to hide what I hid. And you guys didn't respond for his confessions yet. And all the fake emails you put with WFSB and with WTNH. WFSB, you attached me to fake conversations with them with others. You stacked a whole bunch of things. Then you lie about why we respond. And then you lie about them. Don't ever use the word depression too, because they have criminally foreign influence uses of all words. Get them out to paper with the judges involved with them too, with the sick punks in the background, because these are all overt criminal enterprises and private ones, and they're using crime methods. That's why they're that involve them need to hide and plot and not and avoid paper, so they can hide how they've been. You do all everything they wrote formally is criminally foreign influence, tactical delusions, raw. Their motivations, their actual natures are actually recorded is other than they pretended, because they're a certain type of victim slash hyper victim that had roles and predicates with facts before they took oaths. So we have to have forgiveness, not to forgive. Even if you don't want to forgive, forgiveness is about to not leave out what motivated that, which is the breaching method. It uses them remotely. It is a whole bunch of names next to Fox Connecticut News, and there were timed reports of someone who threw themselves off a building at Hartford Hospital and one near Fox Connecticut News. Now, Rick Cianfaglione also acted and had roles with identity thefts and frauds with judges and prosecutors and foreign and domestic military with the buildings next to the state capitol with people involved with this O'Brien family. And I think that's the guy who was standing in a dress, who was involved with the Ray Cololo and his extended family members with houses at the corner of Carriage Hill and Fox Hill that I don't know at all to dislike, but they're involved with the confessions and threats, and people involved with the gun threats and knife threats and fake conversations with me, and planting falsified police reports roles and the roles with the cops switching and forging names. And one of them broke into my house, forced himself in my house, and said, "Don't mess with the Scaloros." And I didn't respond. And then he left, and he gave me a card. And they're switching and forging names. I want a response. I want to know formally who was that. And he better not pretend that I had a conversation with him, a word with him. I had nothing to do with him. That's Scalora family. He's making up evidences with the Scalora family involved with identity theft, fraud, slander. Has something to do with the World Trade Center attack, too. As the people involved with the wire crimes of Wethersfield Police with the name Cololo. And this writing forensics through time with that name. And the Phil Cololo was involved with it through recent time with a Bob Chase, with a child offenders, sexual, medical, people associated with a former mayor Gold involved with it. Writing forensics through time has roles with other Middletown locations too, with the people further involved with the principal child abuser, also with their kids. And now these are kids of intelligence and of overt criminal enterprises and of foreign intelligence at the same time. Has something to do with their roles with the corners of the street, the people with the businesses at the corner of the street of Sosty Highway, Town Line Drive, who have roles planting sequence shifts, identity thefts and frauds, narratives and natures and fake motivations for using my name and using their own name. You know, in other words, all along Route 3 has something to do with that. And that's in the conjunctions to it, like the state judicial branch offices, like Wethersfield Pizza. So get them onto paper. Wethersfield Pizza has roles with a whole bunch of people at Central Connecticut State University in Britain, as the people involved with medical corruption, foreign and domestic, and with this Joshua Julian and this Mark Violet and Mike Violet, with also generals and people associated with whatever the ranks, the male and female military associated with them are at the spots next to the state capitol. And they have houses on 2 Route Highway. They know my name. I don't even know their name. Involved with a whole bunch of judges and prosecutors planting evidence, identity thefts and frauds with those names there, and one's tied to them. Has something to do with the roles of wire companies and the corner of Knott Street and Walker Hill. And places along Walker Hill, other corners along Walker Hill was one of the conjunctions to Route 175, which ties right to where George Washington had the counter store but leaves slavery entrenched in Wethersfield. And the witch trials place right next to it. The last of 13 locations counter extorted with a witch trial place left next to it. Slavery having had been left sickly distinctly north and south, that left out, and others replaced where those come with revelations, those truths. Just like the revelations, having black pupils, the whites and eyes, same color eyes, different color eyes, same time. It comes with revelations, that truth. We have to give it the proper nature. You have to appreciate it with contemplation of a nature, not for the definitions of it by religions, but of a nature of prayer that the religions were trying to say, because the sciences were already abridged. How that was never brought up as one of the things commonly that the sciences are about is because replaced too are insidious identity descriptions and differences, difference defenses. They have the overt criminal. They have the atheists, and they have the passionately religious themed collusions with a Dean Judd, with identity theft, fraud, slanders with his kids too. And I don't know them to have it personal. I did not respond. These are people also involved with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, in Hartford courts. People all along New Britain Avenue. And one of the people with the Hartford courts recorded confessed to me. These people with the former director of the FBI in his defendant capacity also confessed it has something to do with how there are New Britain Avenue splits when it gets to Hartford, and there's 2 parallel New Britain Avenues that are both named New Britain Avenue. These are people that will switch names and plant evidences on a mass scale. They have predicate acts with facts against little kids and their families, way worse than they put them in jail for, and drug them, though. They have their own family members involved with identity theft, fraud, slander, little fake transcripts, evidence on a mass scale. Yeah! return the campus name. Who try, follow mandated force for them, follow mandated law for them. Yeah. Who disbelieves? We need that off too. We need who disbelieves act. That's how we force mandated law proper. They're using mandated law as collusions with predicate acts with facts methods on the campuses you went to, each age of your campuses' lives. If you were homeschooled, they use your difference in your families too. That's why they had homeschooled narrative nature, even if it was made up by the people at Hartford Hospital involved with their kids and parents and their doctors with crimes with their patients and criminals. Yeah, all people tied to them. So we have behavior racketeering. So they're gonna have. That's why I yell. For example, we're gonna have to. They're gonna have to make examples of my behavior, and then they're gonna have to fear God because what was actually recorded first. So a whole bunch of people at Hartford Hospital have a Kevin Dillon involved with drugs and medicines crimes and sexual crimes with kids, including digital, right on the Facebook page of the Principal Child Defenders Campus that was used to force it, as collusions with the police chief Cintron and 1 years ago. It has one of the names planting evidences on all sides of my house through time increasingly. And let's go because they have wire crime acts and method. You can't communicate with the police because they already fake conversation. I'm not going to go sit in little sick fake places. The FBI has collusions with this or criminal incompetence anyways and tactical delusions relative to. And then they're gonna which are relative. We have to get them on paper. We have to do it right here too, on social media because they've been replacing it. There are proofs that they might have been pretending that I'm commenting to some of the commenters. Like some of them have roles with some police officers from Wethersfield, and some locations brought up with that. And like and Adams and other people, I don't know. And descriptions of the motivations, the policies of companies. They've been manipulated this, the people from off their locations, the courts, and the identities of agencies involved in their family members, including FBI and CIA, and people can't make that up. And it's recorded on off Ninth Circuit Court and on off next to the World Trade Center. A whole bunch of people tied to former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, have been roles with federal crimes next to there and at the court next to it. And since that's also people named Scalora involved with Wethersfield police wire crimes and falsified police reports and fake World Trade Center attack information with WFSB, who also has collusions with Saudis I don't know the names of at Rock Hill Athletic Center and people I don't know the names of there, associated with people I never had classes with who pretend they're other, with judges and prosecutors and foreign and domestic military, too. Some of them are tied to the people named Fianza. All of them are tied to people on off the state corrections offices. They live right next to one of the victims of the World Trade Center, reportedly named King. And they too have other neighbors involved with people with the name Demoro and Hanson, who have roles with home break-ins in my area and overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and pretended to be legitimate military or what with shipping, like a Eric Oliveri and others with UPS and with next to the post office, tied to conversations with a Christopher Walters has been planting identity thefts and frauds, also in the form of evidences crimes and roles with the shipping people with medical corruption at Hartford Hospital, with drugs and medicines crimes with doctors and collusions with child offenders, with their own kids involved through time. And then now those kids are adults involved with abuse of other kids too. Some of the kids that were abused by these people in the past. And they all speak like cliques because they're not just legitimate intelligence, etc. They have collusions with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, timed. The same ones that had collusions with the World Trade Center, they forced Saudis to roles with them. For example, my own Saudi friend, including my Afghanistan friend, has associated Wethersfield town offices, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. Wethersfield police and people associated with the FBI, foreign and domestic military, have Afghan leaders and their kids since the 90s involved with predicate acts with overt criminal enterprises on Zion Street in Hartford, and wire crimes with names on off Weathersfield High School, involved with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and people putting predicate acts, fake transcripts, and ties between students into campuses' databases, uses of their family members' roles with identity theft, fraud, slaves, pretending passions and emotions, why they like people or not. They don't even know them. So a whole bunch of people at Hartford Hospital, of Weathersfield campuses, have roles with names at Hartford Hospital involved with child offenders, and Rocky Hill campuses further involved with this. Yeah. So the school resource officers and their family members also roles with with uses of the malls and shopping centers and roads and routes and corners of streets. These are also people with corners of streets on Church Street and Old Weathersfield, involved with the World Trade Center, with other natures of organized crime, and Hartford Hospital names of predicate acts, and with the names, involved with the home break-ins. So make sure they get on paper. And neighbors, please force the Weathersfield police onto paper. And don't pretend it's personal. Get them on paper why they brought up the name Cololo and did put the whole name. And I want a response for the Phil Cololo, because Phil Cololo is also on my street scene, still further with a roles with credible threats, and with further people involved with the child sex offender and medical offenders at the same time as the ones involved with judges and prosecutors and their family members involved. Get on paper. That's why we'll fix the fake aggression that you pretend that I had with you guys, and you'll deal with why and how I had aggression with the people I love, to make people call the police without telling why. I knew you were going to catch yourselves. You did. Yeah. So if I get on paper too, don't make it worse. Don't make me draw you down a map because you pretend you don't understand me. You understand what switching names, forging names mean.